Hello, Heidi Mark here. Just wanted to pop in before we start this week's episode to say that if you haven't yet booked your Breakthrough the Overwhelm free spring session with me, this is an amazing offer. If you haven't booked it yet, either you haven't heard about it, you've been too overwhelmed to book it, or possibly you did check the booking link and then get put off because I made the questions about the reflective questions, which were designed to help you think about how overwhelm is affecting you at the moment. Maybe that put you off. So I've removed them as being essential questions, and they're just there if you'd like to do them. But otherwise, just book in a session. I don't do free coaching sessions very often. I'm doing this because it's spring and I'm super excited and I love doing them. I'm learning loads from talking to you, and I'd absolutely love to gift you one of these free coaching sessions, but time is running out because it is spring. It's now late spring, so this is your last chance. So what will happen if you book one? Well, I'll listen deeply to you, and you will get clarity over what's going on for you in terms of overwhelm, and you will leave with a way through it, some practical action for you. So your life will be better and you will get to hang out with me. So what more could you want? What a wonderful gift. Either click the link just below this episode in the show notes, or go to Calendly. So that's like a calendar, but Lee. It's very clever. I like it. Calendly.com / Heidi Mark, another forward thingy, spring. So that's calendly.com / Heidi Mark, another / spring, and book in your free coaching session right now before you forget. And I'm so looking forward to talking to you. The Overwhelm is Optional podcast is for you if you want to quit the struggle with overwhelm. You want to live life to the full. You don't want to compromise your health and relationships in order to have well-paid, satisfying, meaningful work. You want it all on your terms. Hello, how are you? Welcome to this week's episode of the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. And I just wanted to welcome all the new listeners. So if you're new, welcome. I've noticed that the listening figures have gone up, and it's just so lovely to have you here. And thank you so much for being here. Please do continue to share the podcast, because I know there's so many people out there who just make their day. So yeah, like, subscribe, do the things that crack that algorithm so we can have more gentle rebellion in the world against this status quo that we have to all sacrifice our lives to live. It's bonkers, isn't it? You know, and I'm obviously talking about those of us who are fortunate enough and grateful enough to live in areas of the world that are safe from war, because we obviously send deep love to all of those in areas of the world where there isn't peace at the moment. But for those of us who are in peaceful zones, it's really important that we notice that we're grateful for that. And the problem is that because we have, or the brain has evolved to keep us safe, we get very, very stuck in that survival instinct. And also with the reporting of anything terrible going on in the world in disproportion to anything wonderful going on in the world, that obviously activates that deep ancient system of survival, and it tends to thread through everything we do, so that we end up in this state of overwhelm, where we end up in this state where our nervous system is in permanent emergency mode, but kind of just below the level. So we're not really aware of it because we just get used to it, right? We get used to being in survival mode. So this podcast is for you particularly. No, it's for anyone who, if it makes you feel great, welcome. But my name's Heidi Mark, and I am a coach and a teacher for women who are successful, but just don't quite feel successful. You know, when you've worked really hard and you were promised all the things, more choice, more money, more freedom, more time for yourself, that you could have the life you wanted if you sacrificed and worked hard. And yet you've done all that, and theoretically you are successful. You look around you, you have your beautiful home. It may need renovating like mine, But, you know, you have a lot of the things you set out to achieve, the partner, the home, the dog. Not everyone on the who listens to the podcast has dogs, but you may hear mine snoring in the background. And if you've been listening for a while, and thank you so much, all of those people. We just had the 2-year anniversary and I forgot to celebrate it. I mean, I celebrated it offline. I forgot to share it with you guys. But yeah, March was the 2-year anniversary. And if you've been here from the beginning, wow. Woohoo! Thank you so much. Or if you've been one of those amazing people who've gone back and listened to all the old ones, I've no idea what the original ones are like because I don't go back and listen to them. And I really hope that the podcast is improving and becoming more and more relevant and easy to listen to and joyful and helpful to you. Anyway, thank you to everyone, old and new listeners. So back to the whole thing of overwhelm and this constant triggering of our nervous system into survival mode, even when actually we are safe, is really important. It's really important to me that I share what I've learned about that and what I teach inside my program, Get Your Life Back, and what I teach all my one-to-one clients, because that's obviously personal one-to-one mentoring through these skills. And they're so powerful skills to be able to start to regulate your own nervous system, to start to use overwhelm actually as a signal to do something differently instead of pushing through it. So often when we get into successful survival, so, you know, we have work that we love or we did love, but there's just stuff that's not working. You know, there's too much having times when we're really having to push to think through overwhelm. And that's actually painful. You know, it can really feel like you've pushed your brain, right? This squidgy brain against your skull almost. It's not right. It's not necessary. I mean, right, wrong, whatever. It's not right. To me, it's not right because I'm here going, but you don't need to do that. Let me help you. Let me show you. So, yeah, so this podcast is particularly for women who feel like that. So you're successful, theoretically, but you don't feel successful. Oh, I'm now going off. I'm now feeling another podcast. This always happens to me. I get so excited about this stuff and geek out. I'm now feeling a whole nother episode about, what does successful feel like to you? Anyway, I'm going to get back to this. I'm just going to pause and note that down, actually, because it's been coming up several times. And it's not like I haven't talked about what successful feels like to me or shared my current feeling and updates about living a life successfully. It's just that I've noticed it keeps coming up for me, but we've just had this gorgeous long bank holiday here, and I've noticed it's been coming up, and I've forgotten to offload it into my little app where I keep my overwhelmed part of my brain so I can walk around without it, and I forgot to put it down. So there will be coming up, I don't know when. I get so excited about this. What does successful feel like to you? Let's just touch on that briefly before we get on with this week's topic, which is all about the body. Your lovely, lovely, miraculous body. Anyway, success. So success, so if you're successful but you don't feel successful, you probably notice all the things that are wrong. So it will be the times when you're just flat out overwhelmed, can't see the wood from the trees, can't think straight, it's just horrible. You're firefighting, you're grumpy, you don't sleep very well, you ache even though you haven't had time to physically move very much. It's just horrible. It's like you're not yourself. You don't feel at home in your life. You're like, if you did have time to pause, you go, but this isn't it. This is not the life I intended to create. This is not success. Because it feels too hard. It's supposed to be, it's a bit like, are we there yet? Have we arrived yet? When do we get off and look around and breathe out and go, woohoo, I made it. So success to me feels like there is space in my life for me, to be me. And to be me as I am at the moment, to be me as I'm growing into me. So that would be, for me, time to reflect and to grow, to dream, to plan, so to consciously create my life rather than living in that emergency, right, I've got through that, what's next? So there's this feeling of spaciousness where I fit into my life rather than feeling like I'm squeezing myself into my life. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me. What would it feel like to you to feel successful, to feel like you've made it? How does that feel? To me, it's very expansive. I'm going to leave you with that, and then we're going to dive in to this week's episode. So this week is a really, really powerful episode about listening to your body. So with my little manifesto about the gentle rebel. So a gentle rebel is a woman who just decides that she doesn't fit into how things are, this status quo, this expectation that you sacrifice yourself, that you squish yourself into your life, that you get to choose between having fulfilling work or having like sanity and life and space, or any degree of that. So that either or feels particularly strong when we're in overwhelm, because then we can't see any way of doing things differently and we are just getting through. And that is when we start sacrificing ourselves in order to have the life that we've worked so hard for. So a gentle rebel rejects that, but gently, because she doesn't want to make a fuss. And the reason she doesn't want to make a fuss is, first of all, she doesn't like a fuss. She doesn't particularly like being the centre of attention in terms of having problems. She's very good with other people's problems, but she doesn't particularly like to be like the centre of stuff, you know? So she wants a way to rebel and get herself together privately. So it's a gentle rebellion, as in it's secret. Nobody else knows. So one of the things I really, really like about the work I do with clients and inside Get Your Life Back is that you don't have to tell anyone. Like, you just get to do it secretly, because it's tiny, tiny things that don't disrupt your life. And then what starts to happen is, so when people give me testimonials, and a lot of my testimonials are spontaneous, where people just write to me and say, I've got to tell you this is amazing. And I love that. But what's really interesting is I always give the option, and I usually expect testimonials to be anonymous, because I see this as private work. I see this as the women I work with are the kind of people who are holding to families together, holding organisations together, holding businesses together, holding things together, often for other people. And my job is to be their biggest cheerleader, so that it's kind of backstage in private, they can get themselves together and nobody notices. So in the end, people just go, oh, you look really well, you seem really relaxed, or have you had your hair done, have you been on holiday? Where actually they've been through a deeply, deeply transformative process. But because they're private people and they wish to keep their professional respect, this is really important. If you've built a business, you don't want to lose what you've built. You don't want to lose it in front of clients or mess up, you know, if you're in a professional situation, you don't want to lose it in front of people, because you've worked really hard for that, and you just don't want to. You just want to get your stuff together. So the gentle rebellion is partly secret, and it's also gentle because gentle is the opposite of how we feel the world is. So if the world feels too harsh for you, and this is partly this whole thing of trying to squish yourself into a shape in order to fit the working environment you find yourself in. So for me, it was feeling like I had to put on a suit of armour to go to work. And I was really good at my job. And, you know, it's not like it was all terrible and nothing at all like that. I was very successful until I burnt out and embarrassingly crashed and burned, which is what I don't want for you. Because I couldn't find, and it's not that in the end I didn't ask for help. Okay, so I wasn't always very good at asking for help. It's one of the things I had to learn to do, and I'm grateful for that. But I couldn't find and access the kind of help I needed. It either didn't exist or wasn't on my radar. So I've created that. So there's no reason for you to have to crash and burn and lose everything when you can come and work with me. If you want to work with me, just go to heidimark.co.uk, work with me. And check out new page. Woohoo! I expect it needs some more updating, but that's okay, because we don't do perfectionism around here. So I actually published that page before the bank holiday, and I got my brilliant younger son, who's an amazing proofreader, to read it. And then I didn't check, you know, the things I couldn't see, I didn't change till today. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, because I'm a really good coach and I'm a really passionate teacher and I know my stuff. And the fact that there were 2 spelling errors, so what? That doesn't make me, in fact, I think it makes me a better coach, because it's that ability to accept that there's more important things. And I am very professional. So for me, that would have used to have been oh my God, that's terrible. And now it's, yeah, I would have liked there not to be those two tiny, and they were tiny errors, but they were there. I couldn't see them. That's normal. And it's that acceptance of what's really important here. You know, what are the skills here? What's most important to you? Because you can keep checking. I asked somebody who was quite stressed a while ago, so do you ever send out anything that's not perfect? No. They literally said they never sent out anything that wasn't perfect. And I found that quite worrying, actually, because to believe that you don't send anything out perfectly means that you're rechecking and that it's on your mind. And it's, you know, unless you have like a checker, and then it would possibly be possible. I don't know. Even like my page isn't perfect now. I'm sure it could be loads better. Anyway, back to the Gentle Rebel. So in the Gentle Rebel manifesto, it's not a manifesto. In the description I have created for you of a Gentle Rebel commits to herself first. Oh, that's hard, which is why, go back a few episodes, I did a whole thing on selfishness, so that you can just examine what comes up for you when I say a Gentle Rebel commits to herself first. Ooh, yeah, that's a big one, right? So you can go back and check that one out. Not right now though, stay here because this is a good one too. A Gentle Rebel commits to herself first, to living her life her way. And what that means is to live your life your way. That means you're not going to keep trying to squeeze yourself into a life that doesn't work for you, but to find out how you need to gently start creating a life that works for you, a life you feel at home in, a life that feels expansive, a life that feels successful because you get to be yourself in it. You get to feel at home in it. To do that, you have to know what your way is, and also to accept that there isn't one right answer, that your way is always changing and your life is always changing. And that's the point, right? That we get to expand and grow as people, woo, and have more joy, woohoo, more energy, more health, more connection, more love, more money, more success, more doing deeply fulfilling, satisfying work, which is good for the world. Anyway, back to the rest of it. So I get so excited. I love this work. A Gentle Rebel commits to herself first, to living her life her way. And to do that, she needs to know what that is. So it's about increasing self-awareness. How do we do that? Number one, she listens to her body, connects to her heart, and learns to control her attention. And last week, we looked at attention. I can't remember why I did attention first. It just came up as that was the right thing to do. But what's really, really good about those three things, because those three things connect deeply. It's actually quite difficult to separate them, but to learn them and to think about them, it's really helpful to separate them, right? And then when you start doing this, you start practicing this, sometimes it all just comes together and flows, and other times you're going to deliberately up-level your skill by just focusing on the mind, just focusing on the body, just focusing on the heart, and then you bring it back together. And it's that dance. It's a spiral path of just letting go of habits that don't work for you anymore with gratitude, because obviously they used to work for you or you wouldn't have developed them, even if they feel rubbish now, like procrastination. There's another podcast episode on that somewhere. So let's get into this week. Your body. And what does it mean anyway? So the Gentle Rebel listens to her body. What? So some of you will be quite aware of this idea of listening to the body has wisdom, and others of you will be like, how can you listen to the body, Heidi? And it just depends where you are on your thinking about this stuff. So just notice what comes up. What I always invite you to do with anything I'm saying is notice what comes up for you, because the whole point is that everybody's different. So there's things that connect us, like we all have a body and a heart and a mind that tends to get easily overwhelmed because of the way the brain's evolved. That's why you're here. But then you have this uniqueness, and also at different times in your life and different times in the year and different times in like a monthly cycle, or the cycles, cycles of a woman's life. Like at different times you're different, and it's that embracing that uniqueness. And when we learn to listen to the body already has that in it, so we don't have to think about it. This is what's really cool about the body, is that when we dare to notice what's going on rather than pushing it away, because what we generally tend to do, and I'm going to see if you notice this. Oh, I forgot what I was saying about what I invite you to do. Let's just go back to that. What I invite you to do with my words is just notice what comes up for you, because everybody's different, rather than going, this is the one right way, Heidi said this. Never go with that. This is about empowering you. So anything that I say, you notice neutrally. Oh, what comes up for me? What comes up for me? So this, and then we're going to take that practice of neutrally noticing. So neutral noticing is my go-to tool, and you can get the 1 minute mark if you want to practice that by going to heidimark.co.uk, the 1 minute mark. So you can neutrally notice my words on the podcast. And some people re-listen to an episode and find new things in it, because that's going to happen, right? So what the listening to the body is neutrally noticing what's going on in the body. And I don't know about you, but when my body's happy, when I feel like energized and the sun is warm on my skin and I'm super excited, or I'm in like a really nice yoga stretch, I'm like, yes, I can listen to my body. And when my body's like vomiting, as it was the other night, I'm like, oh, I so don't want to be in my body. Please take me out of my body right now. So the skill of listening to the body is to do so neutrally, is to not push away, is to just treat it all neutrally, as if it were the same. And I'm laughing now because, well, first of all, one of the people I work with sometimes really struggles with this. And well, actually everybody does, but you know what I mean. One person has vocalized it more, which I love. But also I'm laughing because I'm going and treat it all as if it was the same. And yet the other night when I was having some major purge, which I don't know where it came from, it's the start of my birthday weekend. It was really hard for me to do that. And even though I could hardly think straight, because I don't know what happened, because Simon wasn't ill, so I don't think it was food poisoning, but it wasn't a bug, so God knows what happened. Anyway, I'm fine, but it was really, for a few hours there, it was hideous, and I was violently shaking with this. It's like, what the hell's going on? And I do remember at some point it coming up to me that, I really don't want to neutrally notice my body right now. Like, I just don't. And then I was thinking, but actually the feeling of nausea is, my body's telling me what it needs. It needs something to go, right? Sorry, this is not very nice. But it's still useful, because if you didn't have that feeling, you wouldn't know what was going on. So even when unpleasant things are happening in your body, there is a usefulness to it. And I was trusting, and my attitude to whatever happened to me for a few hours is that I'm grateful, because there was obviously something my body needed to expel. And it did that because it has this wisdom. And if my mind was in charge of my body, my mind would have chosen not to do that. Quite rightly, because it was horrible. It's always horrible being ill, right? And as someone who had hyperemesis in both my pregnancies, which if you don't know what hyperemesis was, and why would you? And God forbid that you ever have to go through it. I vomited all the way through both my pregnancies. That's 9 months of vomiting for 2 children. So that means I vomited for several other women, probably several hundred other women. Anyway, it's a long time ago, but I really struggle with anything like that now, because it's like, oh my God, I'm so overdoing this in my life. I've had enough. But the point is that the mind would go, no, I'm not doing it. And that's not helpful. So the body has this deep wisdom. So we can do this on several ways. We can say, right, the body, there's loads of ways we can do this. Let's start with the first one, the easiest. Always start with easiest. Yes, that's what we do over here on the Overwhelm is Optional podcast. We always go for the easiest first. Always, because my aim is to take away from your to-do list, away from your get better at list, away out of your head. Right, so the very first brilliant thing about listening to your body is that when you get out of your head into your body, you get away from the overwhelm. And that's what happens in the 1 minute mark, right? Feel your feet on the ground. Allow your belly to soften and notice how you feel. Now, just doing that tends to, and the point is not to aim for this ever. Never aim to control your nervous system too hard. Just go for allowing. So this is about trusting the body and the nervous system, that if I go with the nervous system will self-regulate when we give it space to do so. And very often we don't give it the space to do so because we don't notice that our nervous system, we don't notice the whole clenching of the jaw or the shoulders getting higher and higher up or anything. We just don't notice because it's just normal. Like, everybody's wandering around like that, right? So if you think of overwhelm as a really helpful thing to remind you to listen to your body, and if by listening to the body you just literally go, oh, I'm going to move my attention, and can you see how this is connected to last week? This is a really, really nice and easy attention control practice. So without having to deliberately control the attention, what you're doing is going, oh, I'm just practicing neutral noticing. I'm listening to my body for 30 seconds. And you move your attention out of your head or out of the external thing that you're focusing on just for a few seconds, and you move your attention down to your feet and you feel your feet on the ground. And when I say feel your feet on the ground, what I mean is you're placing your attention inside your feet. You're feeling what the connection to the ground, your socks, how soft they are, your shoes, what they're like, or taking your socks and shoes off. I don't care. Do what's right for you. Feel your feet on the ground. Now, obviously, other people would say, go and ground yourself. Go outside and put your feet on the grass. And yeah, I'm a big fan of that, but seriously, you've got enough to do, right? If you're feeling really overwhelmed, I want something you can do instantly. So therefore, just go feel your feet on the ground. Even if they're not on the ground, even if you're on a chair or wherever you are, just moving your attention into your feet is the furthest away from your overwhelm, because the overwhelm lives in our head, because it's overwhelming the mind, overloading the mind. Feeling your feet on the ground. So immediately you do that, you learn to control your attention. And if you do the whole, I don't know, for some people it happens immediately. They do the 1 minute mark. So even thinking of the 1 minute mark seems to reset their nervous system. But if you do the whole and then allowing your belly to soften, if you want to do that, that tends to take you into the middle of your body as well. And then you can really notice what's going on for you in the body. And then you might notice that you get this whole, oh no, I'm really cold, or I'm hungry, or I'm tired, or I'm stiff and aching. And just watch that as well. So you can notice what's going on in your body. You're listening to your body, and then notice what your mind has to say about what you find. And then ask yourself this question. How is your relationship with your body? Is your relationship with your body generally one of, woohoo, my body's amazing, it's a miracle, it self-heals, it self-regulates, it knows how much I need to drink, it knows what I need to eat, it knows how often I need to move, it knows how often I need to rest and sleep and dance and connect and hug and gaze at something beautiful. My body is an amazing, self-regulating, I don't like to say machine, but it is in terms of efficiency, like the body is amazing. Like, the more I read about the body, oh my God, the body's incredible, absolutely incredible. And we've so lost face with the body, so disconnected ourselves in the same way we have disconnected from the earth. So that reconnecting to your body is deeply transformative. But what will tend to happen is the mind will come along with, uh-oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Why? Because the brain has developed to keep you safe. So it's going to point out all of the bears, all of the dangers, all the cliff edges, all the poisonous plants. So instead, your job is to notice that as well. So you listen to the body, and the attention will be pulled back into the mind. Uh-oh, fake emergency. By deliberately, gently but firmly So you're not trying to shut the mind down. Place your attention back in the body. Feet, belly, maybe allowing the shoulders to move away from the ears, maybe allowing some space between the teeth. Whatever feels nice, right? Whatever's easiest. It's your practice. So listening to the body just in the moment gives you immediate relief from overwhelm. It may or may not reset the nervous system. It doesn't matter. We're not aiming here. We're just allowing, we're trusting. And that's a practice, right? So all of these things are practices. And this is really important because the gentle rebel knows that she is both perfect and a work in progress. And that the work is to gently basically become more and more herself. Let go of the habits that don't work for you anymore. And it's always a practice. Always a practice. We're never aiming for perfection because we don't need to. You're already perfect. So you can't aim to be perfect because you're already perfect. So if you think of yourself as perfect, like this, I don't know, whatever that looks, I'm getting this like image of golden loveliness inside. And then we've got this human, faulty, messy, practicing on the outside, because that's how life is. Life is an adventure. And it's an adventure of wanting to expand and experience and love and create, and that involves mess. That involves getting down in the trenches, getting muddy and dirty sometimes, and then climbing up hills and looking at the view. And it's just, if life is an adventure where we're constantly trying to work out how to be ourselves in different environments that don't quite fit us, well, that's okay, but go gently. Like, the world feels really harsh to me very often. You know, if I just look at news headlines, whoa, just stay inside. It's much safer. But that's not living, right? So to live fully in the world as myself, I need to have an attitude of gentleness, a gentle rebellion, to be able to say, that's not for me, this is for me. I get to be myself. And what I have learned to be true, and I know this for myself and those I work with, is that as we learn to be ourselves, as we just become ourselves, allow ourselves to be ourselves, that's when our dreams come true. So the things that feel impossible, i.e., being able to have fulfilling, satisfying work that pays well, and the feeling of time for yourself, time to do the things that you long to do as well as the work. So a full life, a real life, the life you actually want to live, the life you intended to create when you work so hard. That life, that comes from being ourselves, which means daring to rebel, because it's not how things are set up. So do it gently, do it secretly, then there's no pressure from outside. I mean, you can tell people if you want, but I think it's really good to have support. But what I like to do is safely curate a group of people to come together who are all, you know, ready to become gentle rebels, and creating that safe container. I know that that's magical, because as each person listens to the other person, they gain so much. But going out in the world and saying, oh, I'm going to be a gentle rebel, to somebody who's not wanting to do that, could be good or bad. I don't know. It's up to you. You get to decide. Do what you want. I'm just saying you don't have to declare anything. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. You don't have to make it harder for yourself. Go gently. And if that means going privately and secretly, well, you get to do that, because that's good. That works for me. So this listening to the body is a practice. So it's not going to be perfect. And often you're going to go, I don't want to listen to my body because I don't like what I'm finding. Now, I was talking about an episode of, you know, vomiting, which is horrible. But I think on a day-to-day basis, we're ignoring our bodies a lot more than that for tiny things like thirst, hunger, the need to move, to rest, to gaze at something beautiful. Like, these aren't things that, you know, that you need to go, oh no, not now, body, that's really inconvenient, that's really unpleasant, you're telling me that. But that's what we do, right? Because we get really passionate about what we're doing, and we want to finish stuff. There's something so lovely about completing something. But the thing is, Nothing's ever done. And if we do things in a way that cause us to ignore our bodies, then, well, what's the point? Because when we get there, we're knackered, we're burnt out, and we're miserable, and we're disconnected from ourselves, and we've annoyed people around us and upset people. And, you know, like that kind of sacrifice, I'm not interested in that anymore. You know, the temporary sacrifice to complete something like a qualification. But even now, I think I would do that differently. Yeah, I actually think that I've changed so much that if I were to do a qualification now, I wouldn't. Like I'm writing my book at the moment, and I'm not doing that in a horrid to Heidi way. I don't roll with that anymore. That's gone. I just don't do it. I've set my life up so, well, it just doesn't, it's not even on my radar. It's not even a thing. I mean, I still have a tendency to overwork, and I did say to Simon, when was it? Oh, over Easter. I said, I feel guilty not working because of something or other. I can't remember what it was. He was working because his work's different than mine, and he has deadlines, and I can move my deadlines. He can't move these deadlines. So I said, but I feel guilty because you're working. I said, but I know that you're not looking at me thinking I should be working. So, you know, just tell me to shut up. Not shut up. He wouldn't ever say that to me. But, you know, I actually asked for support in letting go of the need to work because he was working. Because actually it is interesting if both of you are working at home, isn't it? If one of you appears to be working less hard, have you had that? And you kind of think, should I then therefore be doing housework or something to make up for it? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I expect you can relate to that. That need to be loved through working hard, through being needed and appreciated by doing things for other people. I don't know. I'm always practicing this stuff. So the practice of the gentle rebel is continuous, but more and more joyful. That's what I would say, because you just get better at going, well, like I've just said, if I did a qualification now, there's no way it would be, let's be hard to Heidi. No, that wouldn't be happening. So back to the body. So the first layer of it is to notice everything, not everything, because you can't do that. You can't sit around all day going, oh, I'm noticing this in my body. Like, first of all, you get bored, and secondly, you got stuff to do. So it's a good idea to just generally do it more and more. So for example, maybe on the hour you could just go, I just check in with my body. Do I need to move? Do I need to eat? You know, have I overstared at the screen or at close work? Or, you know, what are the things that are pulling at me? Because if you notice, in general, your attention gets pulled towards completion of work things or things for other people, not towards self-care. My question to you is, are you treating your body as a rather inconvenient way to transport your mind around? Or are you starting to develop a relationship with your body of absolute awe for its magical abilities to sustain itself and you? And also because actually one of the last things I want to talk about is this deep wisdom and intuition and guidance from the body. So where do you think you are on this scale? So if it's a scale and it changes all the time, so there's no judgment of yourself here, are you more towards, at the moment today, the kind of, oh my God, my body's a really inconvenient way to transport my mind around? And that's an interesting one, because the mind moves faster, much, much faster than the body. So the mind, if I told you to think of the other side of the world, I don't know where that would be to you, because I know we have listeners from all over the place now, which is lovely and super exciting. Oh, I'm so excited. So if I said, think about the other side of the world, your mind would go to the other side of the world, right? So your mind can go, and if I said, oh, think of yourself, can you remember being a baby? I can remember being a baby. I know most people can't. But what's your earliest memory? Your mind would go to there. And if I asked you to think of your furthest away dreams, like you could project into the future. And if I asked you to move your mind to another place in the room, it could go there instantly. Like, the mind moves really fast. The mind's really, really interesting. But the body doesn't move that fast. I mean, it can move pretty fast, like if you're really good at running, obviously. But My body doesn't move super fast. Apparently, I run like the Bionic Woman in slow motion. But anyway, that's hilarious, and I'm quite happy with that because that's funny. It does other amazing things, like it's really good at gardening. So your body and your mind move at different paces. So it's going to feel like, it can often feel like, sometimes it feels like that to me, like, oh, I really, really want to finish editing my book, but that's going to take hours, and if I sit for hours, my body's not going to be happy, so I'm not going to do it in that way, because as I've just said, that's what I choose not to do now. There's no like harsh boot camp Heidi here. So just notice how much you think of your body as inconvenient, how much you think of it as magical. And as a gentle rebel, the more we listen to the body, the more we practice appreciation, listening, deep listening, gratitude, looking after it more, going towards things that energize us, that make us feel really good, more singing, dancing, bouncing around, whatever that looks like to you. That might be an internal thing. That's the gentle rebel way, but very personalized for each person, because we're all different, right? But just notice where you are on that scale today, and then notice any judgment about that. Notice it all completely neutrally. And then you could commit to just noticing neutrally each day what your body needs, what it's telling you, where we want to get to is we have a drink before we're thirsty. No, I don't mean before we're thirsty. I don't mean we're trying never to be thirsty. I mean, you know that over thirst you get? I'm feeling quite thirsty now, actually. Hang on. That's better. Oh, it's funny talking about this, because now I'm thinking, oh, am I thirsty? Do I need to move? Oh, I feel like going dancing outside. Ideally, we want to get to a situation where we recognise our body's needs at each time, because it changes, right? There's times when we need more water and less water. There's times when coffee is just like, woo, makes you go slightly, woo. And other times when it's like, oh yeah, coffee feels so nice right now. So just noticing what the body needs in terms of what to drink. Alcohol's a really interesting one. So I have had clients who have wanted to give up alcohol because they've started to notice, and I've noticed that a lot of people, this happened to me, maybe you're not at this age yet, but I noticed in my late 30s, it was like, not sure I want to really drink alcohol anymore. It's quite interesting. And then it's not that I don't drink, I just don't drink. So I'm not like a non-drinker. I rarely drink anything because I don't enjoy it. So it's just not for me. It's not relevant. So yeah, noticing if you're like, oh, I'd really like to give up alcohol, and then it becomes a thing, like, oh, I really want to give up alcohol. But if you just notice instead what the alcohol does, so like there's a lovely habit, isn't there, of picking up the wine glass, pouring in the wine. It's a often something you do with somebody else. It's a ritual, it's an unwinding thing. And then, but if you also notice the next day there's like what that feels like, then you get to notice, what is it I get, what am I gaining and what am I losing? And you can use that information from your body to guide you towards what might work better for you. Can you see? It's really cool. And all you have to do is notice neutrally and gently, and not massively. Like this is literally moments of practice in a day, but it's a commitment. So the gentle rebel commits to herself first. This is where the commitment is. So if you want to live your life your way, I'm guessing if you're like me and everyone else I work with, that you want to feel really good. You want to be really healthy. You want to have energy. You want to have a mind that can think without feeling all cloggy. You want to sleep well. Yeah, you just want to feel good, and that's going to require a commitment. But if we make it a big commitment, like those January disastrous New Year's resolutions, it gets messy and really hard. But if we just say, right, I'm going to listen to my body, I'm just going to notice, then we can allow the body to guide us. Because in the end, what we're doing is saying, I want more of this, and that's not for me. I want more of this, I want to feel more of that, but that's not for me, or I don't really know, so I'm just going to try and I'm going to notice. And that self-awareness practice of neutral noticing, but this week we're really focused on the body, is really, really helpful for determining, for this point in your life, what you want to consume, like drink and food, how much you want to move, how much you want to rest, all these kind of things. Really, really helpful. And what's really great is it means that you don't, instead of going, because we overuse the mind, don't we? And we tend to use the mind instead of the body. So this is just adjusting that cultural habit. So if, like me, you have a tendency, and this is a tendency I have dropped and only now do consciously. So for example, say something comes up, like I'm walking along and my foot hurt. I might go, oh, I need to look up about that ligament. What is that thing? And I'd go on to Google, right? And I would research all of it, and then, and I need to do this, and then I would have added masses to my overwhelm. So now what's wrong with me? Oh no, now my body's falling to pieces, and now I'm going to do all these exercises and go and see a physio. And blah. So now what I do is go, my body has this physical sensation. Notice, completely neutrally. Because it's not a disaster. What it is your body talking to you. And when we listen with this kind of respectful magic, that's what I go for, like this respectful magic. So yeah, sometimes, I'm not saying I'm always like, when I was vomiting the other night, I wasn't going, woohoo, brilliant body, knows how to purge. No, not at all. I was very upset. But once I'd recovered, I was able to go, well, obviously that needed to happen for whatever reason, and I trust that. So it's not that everything's always brilliant when we do this work, but it's the neutrality that we bring to it. It's the commitment to doing it gently. It's the commitment to ourselves. It's all an act of self-love. Because that's what we're rebelling against, right? A society that expects us to sacrifice our self, our ability to be ourselves, to feel at home in ourselves. So let's just recap before we go into the lovely, quickly round up with the deeper wisdom of the body. So by listening to the body, you are immediately practicing controlling your attention without having to do it all using the mind. So we can do attention practice, and we do attention practices where we just use the mind. But because often, usually, always, the people I work with, the ability to reconnect to the body is essential for guidance towards greater energy and health, but also in that rebuilding the relationship with ourselves and saying, yeah, I've been too harsh on myself. You know, the idea that in order to be successful and then hold all my success together, I decided that it was okay to overwork my body, to go without rest and decent food, to do all of these things that actually were really bad for my health. That's not okay for me. So if that's not okay for you, then this rebuilding this relationship, this moving from, you know, allowing the mind to make all the decisions for the body. Not now, body, that's inconvenient. Not now, body. No, there's no time to go to the loo. There's no time to sleep. There's no time to rest. There's no time to exercise. There's no time to make a really decent soup for lunch. There's no time to go and get a drink of water. There's no time. I'm busy. This is more important than you. Nothing is more important. Your body, you only get one. Like, our bodies are so important. And that's where you live, right? So this moving our attention into the body, this listening to the body, at the first level for a gentle rebel, it's a brilliant attention control practice. It's a brilliant way of neutral noticing, rooting in the body, reconnecting with the self, just for a few moments. Like, it's a really lovely practice to do for a minute on the hour. You're not going to do it every hour, that's okay. But if you commit to doing it on the hour every hour, you're probably going to do it a couple of times a day. And that's enough. That works. Because it's the commitment to yourself first, to listening to yourself. And then whatever comes up, keeping it neutral. Oh, that's really useful information. Thank you. What we need to take away is, say you genuinely don't have time to sort to look after your body, because it takes time gently to rebel and to have enough time for these very basic self-care things. And it is quite shocking if you think about that. No time to eat, sleep, rest, move, drink water. Something's really wrong. But it takes time, so we go gently. So instead of self-judgment, oh, I'm terrible, I've set my life up, so I just can't even look after myself, I'm damaging my health. Yeah, drop that. Be on your own side. Just treating anything that the body wants to say, any little physical sensations, neutrally and gratefully. It's like, oh, great, I noticed it. The noticing is what matters, and then keeping it neutral is what matters. That's where everything changes. Honestly, it really is that simple. It's the neutral noticing, the commitment to neutrally noticing what's going on in your body matters. Then you are listening to the body, and then you practice that, and you get better and better at it, and it just becomes part of your life. And you don't even have to think about it. You don't have to think every day, oh, today I must listen to my body. No, you just do, because that's who you are, and that's how you live now. Because as a gentle rebel, we live through listening to our bodies, connecting to our hearts, controlling our attention, so that we can have a life that feels amazing to us because it's ours. And then the final bit, the really cool thing, the deeper thing, is there's this deep wisdom in the body that can guide us. And one of the ways is, it's kind of like a boundary thing. So say you can probably, I'm sure you've experienced, I don't know, you may or may not have experienced this. So for example, if say you're in a place, like you're walking around, I don't know, where did I go? At the weekend I went to Gardener's World live, and so you're in a crowd of people. How do you negotiate a crowd? Actually, it wasn't very crowded, so it's probably not the best. Like Glastonbury, I go to Glastonbury Festival, I work at Glastonbury Festivals, masses of people, and they're in the way. And, as an introvert, not a huge fan of being surrounded by people, but there is an incredible energy in there. It's beautiful, beautiful energy. It's a very special place. But not everybody is lovely. Like, to go through the world, I've noticed that I have a tendency to go through the world believing that I can find the good in everybody. And I don't actually think that's true. Not anymore. I think that I have learned to be better at assuming that I can bring out the best in someone, or can see the best in someone, but at the same time recognizing that they might not be ready to actually have that as the way they go through their life, because we're all on different adventures, let's put it that way. So say you're not sure about somebody you've just met, like, you can feel that in the body if you learn to listen to the body. You can feel it. So we have it in our language, don't we? They've got my heckles up, you can get the goosebumps, you can get I felt it in the pit of my stomach. Like, we can feel our boundaries being crossed, but we don't feel our boundaries being crossed. We miss really helpful information when we live in our heads and we are overwhelmed. And this leads us to make less than optimal decisions because we're overwhelmed and we just want to get something done. So there is this wisdom in the body that we can use to guide us. So the reason I'm using a physical thing, it doesn't have to be, I don't always mean like when you're meeting people face to face in a crowd. I'm using this as an idea because when you walk through a crowd, you can feel that some energies are better to go towards and some, at least I can you? That, like, oh, that's a good place to go. Oh, that doesn't feel quite right. I get it with buildings. I get it with all sorts of things, secondhand books, all sorts of things. So I'm quite sensitive to this, but I'm a very sensitive person anyway. But the listening to the body, now I trust it more. Now I really listen. Doesn't mean I always act on it, but I notice it. Oh, that's interesting. That's curious. I went into that room in this, like, house I've been visiting, and that just felt wrong, so I left the room, or I didn't leave the room, or I just noticed, or I met that person and everybody told me they're really nice, but something felt wrong to me. I could feel it in the body. So it doesn't mean that you have to judge it, it's just the noticing. And I think this is really helpful with boundaries and looking after ourselves, Because if something doesn't feel right, we can pause. We don't have to make a decision straight away. We can notice completely neutrally, yeah, something felt off. I'm just gonna pause. I'm just gonna, can I get back to you? Can I let you know? I'm not sure. I have to check my calendar. Maybe, maybe not. You know, just that. So there's this like sixth, it's not a sixth sense, it's the body sense of what feels good and what doesn't feel good. This is very useful when you're exercising, because it's easy, isn't it, to hurt ourselves by pushing ourselves too hard. But noticing what feels off. You know, we've all done it, haven't we? As runners, if you're a runner, had a day when maybe shouldn't be running that far, and then overtrained. Easily done because our mind decides that we're going to do that, but the body might have other ideas. Now that doesn't mean that it's easy to go, oh yeah, but if I don't push myself, I'll never do this. I'm not talking about gently stretching the body into the next expansive, exciting adventure of your exercise. I'm talking about the times when we over push our body, when we go through something which with hindsight we think, yeah, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Have you done that? And then the last one is this kind of even deeper wisdom when we might not even be out in the world, but it's this just deep knowing. So this comes when we listen, when we're still in silence and we just listen to ourselves, when we withdraw our attention from the world and go into the body, deep into the body, and just notice what's going on. And then we can even ask the body questions. Now this might sound weird. I got this from a Zen master and it works for me. So for example, if you have an injury or something, or it doesn't even have to be an injury, it could be a decision or anything, you can just like ask the body and notice what comes up. Just noticing this deep wisdom of the body. I think this rebuilding this connection with the body is really important. I personally believe that it is the way to the energy, the health, the ability to focus really well and then switch off and play, switch off and go to sleep, you know, to change activities. This listening to the body, this to me is essential. But also I believe it's deeply connected to our feelings. I often hear people say things like, oh yes, you should go and get out in nature. And I don't really understand that. Now that's obviously partly because I've spent most of my life not living in cities. So for me, I have to live in the countryside. That's what nourishes me. But it's also because we have become so disconnected from our bodies, from the earth, that we actually believe that nature is separate from us. Oh, we have to go and get into nature. You are nature. We are part of the earth. And I'm just tired of this kind of cultural thing that's been going on for decades now that I kind of grew up with, of the fact that, I don't know, humans are terrible. Humans are a blight on the planet, that we're separate, that we're not necessary to the planet, that we're no good, you know, like we're taking up too much space and we're using too many resources and we're just this terrible blight on the planet. We are part of nature. Some of my favourite people are humans. I'm tired of this whole thing of, I don't know, do you ever feel squished? Like you're taking up too much space, you shouldn't really be here, like you need to use less, be quieter. We are nature and our bodies are amazing. And when we reconnect to our bodies, to ourselves, to the earth, when we notice how our body feels in different environments, in artificial environments, inside, artificial light, and then outside, you know, when we notice the nature around us, and you can always find more natural circumstances, even within very man-made places. There's, you know, the earth is always reclaiming. Like, we don't get to concrete over everything, no matter what disaster, terrifying, fear-mongering headlines there are. The earth is alive and we are part of that, and our bodies are deeply connected and made of the same stuff. And I really believe that this listening to the body, it connects us together and it connects us to the planet, and it's just part of healing for all of us. So this week I invite you to continue. If you listened to last week and you started to notice where your attention was going, which I really hope you did, and I'd love to hear from you about what you noticed. If you noticed that your attention was going on things that you didn't really want it to be, and you were like, that's why I never have time to do anything, because I'm doing that and I'm meant to be doing this. So to continue your attention control practice this week, I invite you to really start listening to the body and just noticing how it feels completely neutrally. I'd love to hear from you. You can find a link to email me just below in the show notes, or just email me at heidi@heidimark.co.uk, or you can message me on Instagram. I absolutely love having conversations with people about this. It would just be absolutely lovely to hear from you. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If this resonates with you, please use the like, subscribe and share buttons to help other people find their way here too. And please do go to www.heidimark.co.uk/the 1 minute mark with an E to join my mailing list and receive my free 1 minute life-changing audio practice.